Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo/gaming video for this week, where I take a look at stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion, though. A couple of things I do want to point out before we get started with the video. Number one, though, there will be no video game review for this week, though. I'm trying to work out, I have some stuff to do, and I'm trying to work out stuff for my next review, which I'm focusing on right now to be on Psychonauts 2. I've been playing that, downloaded on my Game Pass for my Xbox Series S, though. The other thing I do want to talk about is that recently I just downloaded Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I tried out that 60 FPS boost, or 60 FPS that they just added to Assassin's Creed Odyssey on my Xbox Series S, and it's kind of impressive, though. I mean, one downside is the cutscenes are at 30 FPS, but not a huge deal. The fact that you can play the game at 60 is definitely nice. I'm hoping Assassin's Creed Origins can get that kind of a boost, though. I would like to see that game running on 60 FPS, especially on the Xbox Series S. And in sort of a non-gaming related, although this might come off to some out there, might view it as controversy, but I don't. As probably some of you are aware, since this video will probably go up on Saturday, it is the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and I do want to sort of get this out, and that is this. Regardless of how you feel about the war on terror, or regardless of how you feel about the war in Afghanistan, whether you thought it was the right thing or the wrong thing, or how the pullout was handled and all that stuff, I think it's important that we honor our fighting men and women who were willing to sacrifice their life over there, though. Even if you disagree with us going into Afghanistan in the first place, though, I think it's important that we salute our fighting men and women. I think they did the best they could over there, given the type of situation that they were facing, though. So I would say I salute our fighting men and women who, especially those who were willing to take up the call to arms when we had to go in to go after, Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and so forth. So, like I said, regardless of what your opinion is, I think it's important that we support our fighting men and women and our veterans, especially those who served during the war on terror or during the war in Afghanistan. Alright, anyway, though, we got 4 stories to cover in here, including Sony showing off the PlayStation Showcase, though. Some interesting information regarding somewhat of the history of the development of the Metroid Prime games, though, particularly the first one, though. Controversy starting to emerge with Sonic Colors, particularly the Nintendo Switch version, and Sony reversing course on terms of basically those who purchased the PS4 version of Horizon Forbidden West, though. And if you're interested in where I got all my information from, though, I'll have links in the description of where I got information, the stories and all, assuming you're watching this on YouTube, though. But before we get started, I do want to do a quick My 2 Cent, and that is stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going into a huge amount of details. We learned that Ubisoft has reconfirmed that Far Cry 6, their upcoming game, though, basically will have a next-gen upgrade to it, and it will be absolutely free. Now, there are some speculations to why this is happening. Some believe that the timing of this announcement may occur during the controversy that Sony, which I'm going to get to, in regards of Horizon Forbidden West. And many do speculate that had this controversy not happened, they believe Ubisoft would charge basically money for those who want a free upgrade and all that stuff, considering that there has been some reports of how some developers are not taking advantage of free updates or smart delivery and so forth. So I could see where the argument could be made about Ubisoft probably changing course following the Horizon Forbidden West controversy. But either way, Far Cry 6 will get a free next-gen upgrade. So if you have the PS4 or the Xbox One version, it sounds like you'll be able to upgrade it to the Xbox Series S and X or the PS5 version. Okay. That's my phone, probably someone will pick it up. We also learned that the upcoming Valve system, the Steam Deck, though, apparently won't play all your Steam games, at least at launch, because of a comment made by Proton Code developer, though. Now, is this certainly could be a big issue? It could, though. If it's going to be at launch, it's going to be interesting to see when this issue will be addressed to allow those who are considering getting a Steam Deck to be able to play all their Steam games on it, though. So, is it a big deal? Not at the moment, but it could be a big issue if it turns out that it's still unable to play all your Steam library games. So that could be a big problem though, but for right now it seems to be more focused at launch. We'll see if maybe they'll be able to iron it out with Valve or something like that. So we'll have to find out over time, though, whether this becomes a huge issue or doesn't become a huge issue at all. We also learned that apparently there was almost an attempt to do a crossover between No More Heroes 3 and Shadows of the Dam, which, if that were the case, that would have been freaking awesome to see. I mean, I like both games, though. I'm enjoying No More Heroes 3, to be exact. Shadows of the Dam is also a fun game, and I would love to see that game ported over to the Nintendo Switch if that ever happens and all. And hell, I would be open to a sequel to Shadows of the Dam if that ever happens too. So certainly would have liked to see that crossover though. Maybe they'll go back and revise it, but doesn't look like that might be happening anytime soon. We also learned that Nintendo and Lego have teamed up to release basically a Lego block which has mini sets that you could build based off of Super Mario 64 though. It's a little different than the Lego Mario that Nintendo and Legos have worked on before though, and it certainly looks impressive until you get to the price point, which last time I checked was like maybe $170, so I'm not sure if I want to pick this one up. Plus I'm worried the fact that scalpers will be able to try to get their hands on it. We know the whole situation with scalpers and so forth though. We also learned that World War Z will be heading into the Nintendo Switch this November and all. It's going to be very interesting to see how this co-op campaign game plays and all that stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see how well that game runs on the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that the expansion to Kingdom of Amalur: Re-Reckoning is in the final stage of production though. Hopefully we'll see more of this about this expansion soon, and I am hoping at the very least that there are plans to bring this expansion over to the Nintendo Switch. We know they brought the game earlier this year to the Nintendo Switch, and it's a good game despite running at 30 frames per second compared to what the PS4 and Xbox One version or even the PC version is at 60 frames per second. But I'm hoping this expansion does make its way over to the Nintendo Switch if that ever does happen. And last but certainly not least, in a non-gaming related part, we basically saw the first trailer for the Matrix Resurrection starring Keanu Reeves though. We know it's going to be out this December during Christmas, and it will also be on HBO Max, and judging by what I'm seeing so far, I like what I'm seeing though. It's interesting to see Keanu Reeves with the style similar to what it was in his John Wick movies and all. And I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out, especially the way the Matrix Revolution, how the ending to the Matrix Revolution, and the fact that supposedly they do mention the dead Always Online Matrix game or something like that. So I'm very, very curious though. The first one still remains a favorite of mine no matter what. I remember seeing that back in 1999. And that is still a good movie till this day, though. Okay, with the quick My 2 Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story. And this one has to do with Sony, particularly with Horizon Forbidden West, though. Now, obviously, that is the sequel to basically the first game, Horizon Zero Dawn, though. Came out back in 2017. Good game to be exact. Definitely had a bit of a Zelda vibe to it, which certainly wasn't a bad thing at all. And it was definitely nice to see Guerrilla Games do something outside of the Killzone franchise, though I wouldn't mind seeing another entry if necessary. And I would like to see other developers sort of take a break from like working on franchises. Like I would love to see somebody that works under Activision do something outside of just Call of Duty, though, but that's Activision Blizzard to be exact. So in either case though, we know that they are working on the sequel to Horizon Forbidden West, and there are plans to bring it out, I believe, next year, unless there's a change in the date and all. And one of the things that sort of got people's attention was last week it was reported that for those who wanted to upgrade from the PS4 version would have to pay extra to this. This caused some backlash against Sony, as not everyone was happy about this, especially compared to what Microsoft was doing with their whole smart delivery approach and all, and that certainly has received a lot of praises and so forth. Well, it seems as though Sony decided to reverse course refers, of course, in regards of Horizon Forbidden West, though. In an article posted on, if I can get it up there, on GameSpot, it reads this, quote, "Last week, Sony officially opened up pre-orders for Horizon Forbidden West ahead of the game's release on PS4 and PS5 in February next year. Curiously, it was bound to be the first exclusive for Sony without a PS4 to PS5 upgrade path, forcing you to purchase the $80 Digital Deluxe Edition if you need both. Sony has since reversed that decision, which has inadvertently made the PS5 version of the game a less seasonable purchase, especially if you're buying digitally. Right now, the PS4 version of Horizon Forbidden West retails for $60, while the PS5 version is listed for $70. This isn't too surprising at all. Surprisingly, all of Sony exclusives outside the launch titles are also cross-gen following this pattern, including Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut most recently. Unlike those, however, the PS4 to PS5 upgrade for the PS4 version is going to be free following Sony's announcement over the weekend, making the $10 premium for the base PS5 version a costly option for what you get. In fact, paying $70 outright for the PS5 version might be a worse value proposition too. With the PS4 version of the game and its inherent free upgrade, you're getting Horizon Forbidden West for true console. The base PS5 version is only for Sony's new console, so you'll lose out all the additional platform while also paying $10 more, which makes little sense. If you're buying the physical version, you do get the PS5 case and disc, which might be important to you if you're proud of your physical collection. It's clear that this is something Sony might address in the coming weeks, since it's a little confusing right now to those without content and to why one version is more expensive than the other, especially since the PS4 version on PSN doesn't make the free upgrade option that clear. It could be that Sony is devising a method to compensate for pre-orders that occur before reversal begins aligning the price of both versions. Either way, take this as a PSA to only pre-order the PS4 version if you are planning before launch, since there is no reason to pay any more than that for the standard edition. So obviously, following the backlash over how Sony handled Horizon Forbidden West in terms of the upgrade, though, they decided to reverse course on this. Whether this means that all games what this means going forward with every game out there, considering that we now know, I think the next Gran Turismo will be also on PS4. That remains to be seen. But in either case, as much as I don't hate the PlayStation brand, and I'm still trying to find a PS5, which I'm still hard to find one to be exact, but I do think this is a dumb policy compared to what Microsoft is doing with the whole free upgrade, though. It just doesn't make sense why Sony is doing this. This gives the impression that they're being a bit greedy at all, and it makes Microsoft Smart Delivery look way better than what Sony is doing. And the fact that it took a backlash to force them to change course on this is just downright sad at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Sony made the right decision. I think this was the right call for them to do, but it was still a dumb decision for them to do this in the first place, though. It's like I said, especially after what Microsoft is doing. So overall, great that Sony reversed course on this. I think this was the right call to do, but the fact that it took a controversy for them to reverse their decision is unfortunate and sort of sad, though. It's really was a dumb policy to begin with in the first place, though, and I have to say, Microsoft's policy is better. The whole smart delivery approach is definitely better than what Sony was trying to do with the whole situation surrounding Horizon Forbidden West. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with a bit of a controversy surrounding Sonic Colors, particularly the Nintendo Switch version. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at controversy that has started to surround, or at least the disastrous launch, at least for the Switch version, of Sonic Colors. Now, to many people view Sonic Color as probably one of the best 3D Sonic games out there, and I really don't blame them at all. I remember playing this back in 2010 when this came out for the Nintendo Wii, and yeah, it is actually one of the best 3D Sonic games out there, and it definitely shows that it is possible for Sonic to do a 3D game if done right, though. It wasn't 100% perfect, but it wasn't bad either, though. But ever since that game came out, it's been kind of a mixed bag with Sonic, though. We had Sonic Boom Rise of Lyrics, which, let's just say that one didn't exactly help the brand in any way, though. And unfortunately, Sonic has sort of become sort of a joke to a certain extent, though. But to some extent, though, he did seem to gain some popularity again, or at least got some help with it thanks to the success of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out last year, which to me I would say is definitely one of the better movies based off of a video game and all. So when I heard that Sonic Colors was going to be ported over to a lot of systems, and especially to the Nintendo Switch, I was like, yeah, okay, I mean, this is certainly great. Sonic Colors was definitely one of the biggest 3D Sonic games, or to me, one of the best 3D Sonic games out there, though. I wasn't a huge fan of the idea that it was going to run at 30 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch, considering the fact that The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword it now runs at 60 on the Nintendo Switch, though. But to me, it's like 30 frames is okay. 60 frames is better, don't get me wrong about that. I mean, is the game playable at 30 frames per second? Yes, I was able to play it back on when it came out to the Wii, and I'm pretty sure I was going to be able to play it on the Nintendo Switch. Until stories started to come out exactly what was wrong with the Nintendo Switch version. And while there has been some reports that some of the bugs and glitches may have been caused, at least by people showing what the game ran on the emulator, it does seem that there is enough here to cause a major problem for those who are thinking about picking up the Switch version. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads, quote, "The social media for Sonic brand took to Twitter to tell Sonic fans that all feedbacks are being analyzed as the developers work on an upcoming patch. However, the Sonic brand person also appeared to suggest that some of the bugs being shared online were coming from an emulator, though it should be noted that other sites with the Switch version have been reporting similar bugs running on the retail Switch console. According to what this person says, they said, quote, from Twitter, though, "Hey everyone, appreciate all your feedback on Sonic Colors Ultimate, and the team are listening and assuring from an upcoming patch. Thank you for all your patience as we dig into this. Quick aside, we are seeing some graphical issues that were caused by an emulator which is unfortunately outside of our control. Trying to figure out what bugs are legitimate can really slow down the Q&A process. If you're having an issue, please do flag them here at sega.com/support. The article also reads, quote, "Although it appears that some glitches are being caused by players running illegal copies of the game on PC emulators, both Game Explain and the Nintendo World Report have confirmed they've experienced several bugs on actual Switch hardware. Game Explain tweeted a video montage that showed a various of graphical glitches they've encountered while playing, stating, "This video contains glitches we encounter during normal gameplay, but also requires specific steps to be performed and are less likely to be encountered accidentally." Nintendo World Report, meanwhile, tweets another 2-minute video showing more extreme glitches, but points out that it achieves those glitches by following a specific set of steps to trigger them. According to some reports, players can force the glitch by opening each of the game world map and then quitting out of them. This seemingly affects the game's stability, causing extreme issues like Sonic character models deforming and the entire screen quickly flashing bright colors, though, which has led to some warnings about possibility of a seizure a la Balan Wonderworld type, though. Nintendo World Report stressed that even though it has managed to replicate the glitch on retail hardware rather than an emulator, it was only able to do so by performing those specific sets. Excuse me. Over a full playthrough, roughly 5 hours in length, our reviewer did not experience glitches of this severely, it explained. That playthrough was not done in one setting, and the game was closed and reopened at least once in between play sessions, though. According to the tweet, that tweet that Nintendo World Report made, though. It said, our review of Sonic Colors Ultimate isn't ready yet, but we can confirm that the glitch are being discussed on Twitter. Can happen on real Switch hardware with the 1.0.3 version of the game installed. Though they have showed basically what they have the video attached to their Twitter post, and they also included with for those for this footage, the glitch was intentionally caused by following the step in the video. After cycling through the world map, we loaded up a level and began recording. Our video above is in the results. What's also interesting about this is that the situation seems to may have caught Nintendo's attention, and according to an article from My Nintendo News, it reads, quote, many gamers were looking forward to play the Nintendo Switch version of Sonic Color Remakes, Sonic Color Ultimate. However, once the game was released, owners of the game flooded to social media to share their experience with it, and has become apparently that the Switch version of Sonic Colors Ultimate suffers from a number of bugs and glitches. Twitter user Vex said that he contacted Nintendo for a refund, and that the customer service representative told him that they were aware of the issue with the game and substantially refunded the purchase. While this might not work with all customer service rep, it seems very likely that the company is now aware of the widespread issue, with the Switch version in particular being the worst offender. According to what this person Vex wrote on Twitter, this person said, quote, refunded Sonic Colors Ultimate on Switch. If you plan on asking for a refund, Nintendo actually is willing to give it, since apparently they are aware of the issue now. Please let it be known. Now, no word on whether or not other people have been gotten a refund or not, or anything like that, and it's also been reported that Blind Squirrel was the one that handled the port of this game, including the Nintendo Switch version, which then we remember these are the same folks who did the port of WWE 2K18, though. Apparently, to me, this is assuming all this is accurate, how accurate this is and all this stuff, this is very disappointing, and not to mention unacceptable for both Sega and the folks who handled the port as well, Blind Squirrel. The fact that someone decided to say, yeah, this was okay for the Switch version and ship it out to retailers and have it on the digital storefront is literally unacceptable indeed. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're telling me this game, a Wii port of this game was bad, but yet Nintendo can get something like The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword running on the Nintendo Switch, to be exact, and even having it running at 60 FPS. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is truly unacceptable Sega. This should not have been shipped out in the condition that it was in, though. And what's worse is that we know that Sonic Ranger is in development, which is supposed to be an open world Sonic the Hedgehog game. We know that's coming to the Nintendo Switch, but now I'm worried about that game, especially the Switch version, considering how Sonic Colors, a non-open world game, considering how that ran, I'm worried about how this is going to run on the Nintendo Switch, to be exact. So this is unacceptable. This just adds more to sort of the reputation that Sonic the Hedgehog has gotten, especially when it comes to the quality of games. So overall, shame on you, Sega, and especially you, Blind Squirrel, that handled this port, for shipping this game in the condition, it's particularly the Switch version, in the condition that it was in. This should have been handled better, or the Switch version should have at least been delayed to iron out any of these bugs and glitches, though. And like I said, this now makes me more worried about Sonic Rangers now. I mean, I was worried before, but after seeing how Sonic Colors Ultimate, particularly the Nintendo Switch version, how that was handled, I'm now worried about Sonic Rangers. Is that game going to run well? Especially on the Nintendo Switch, since they're planning to bring that one to the Nintendo Switch too. So I am very concerned about this, and like I said, shame on you, Sega, and shame on you, Blind Squirrel, for how this port was handled, and Sega for looking at this and saying, yep, this is fine, let's just ship it out right away, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with some interesting stories about Metroid Prime and some of the development out of it. So it's certainly kind of interesting to hear about this. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our third part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, I want to talk about one of my favorite games during the GameCube era, or shall I say one of my favorite trilogy during the GameCube and the Wii era, and that is Metroid Prime trilogy, particularly Metroid Prime, though. While I will admit I'm not the biggest Metroid fan out there, I will say I do enjoy the series, though. Super Metroid is one of my favorite entries into the series, although I do enjoy, the Metroid Fusion, the remake of the first Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission, and the remake of Metroid 2, though. And I'm especially looking forward to basically the upcoming release of Metroid Dread, a game that I think a lot of us have been waiting for a long time. But the Prime series has also been a favorite of mine because of the whole idea of a first-person adventure, in a first-person shooter, though, approach, but seeing the world through the eyes of Samus Aran during what she sees through her lens and her mask and all. And it was actually a very, very impressive game, to be exact. Visually, it looked nice, the lore and the story was great, and the gameplay was good. Platforming was done well, even though I still think platforming in a first-person view can be tricky at times. Not impossible, just tricky and all that stuff. But still, the game it was still pretty amazing, especially given the ability to scan and learn about some of the enemies and the lore of the world and what happened to it. Though it was one of the biggest highlights for that series. Though the first one I felt was more like taking what made this Metroid series popular and doing it into a 3D perspective. Though the second one sort of kicked it up a little bit with the introducing of the light and dark, and the third one, which is still a good game in my book, though, basically took the idea of a Metroid, but instead of confining it to just one planet, though, it also split up to multiple planets and worlds and all this, which was really neat, though. Now, obviously, we're still waiting for Metroid Prime 4, which obviously we know another studio was working on it, but then Nintendo decided to give it to Retro again, which, again, I still think they should have gone with Retro in the first place, though. But in either way, we're still waiting for Prime 4, but right now we got Metroid Dread coming up. But we learned we learned some interesting information in regards of some of the stuff behind the scenes at Retro Studios and all, and some of it we learned about is during the Metroid Prime is some of the change in the culture there following the buyout of that company, though. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, Nintendo changed the culture at Retro Studios following Metroid Prime crunch, though. This person, Mike WIKN, reckon Prime 4 will be great. Here's what the article had to say. Quote, Thanks to a recent interview on Reese's Riley's Kiwi Talks podcast today has brought some rather interesting details around Retro Studio and Nintendo. We had humorous tales of how the blow mechanic was added to Donkey Kong Country Returns, and some insight into the development of the Metroid Prime trilogies. These nuggets have been given by Mike Wilken, W-I-K-E-N, apologize if I can't say the name correctly, who used to work at the studio and played a key role in various major projects. Another interesting segment to us was a discussion about crunch at Retro Studio. It is an important topic in the industry, of course, and it's no secret that extended hours and unreasonable working conditions have been a prominent issue around various companies. Mike notably shut down stories that Nintendo enforced any unreasonable deadlines on the studio for Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, and highlight how the company stepped in when it realized there was a serious issue after completion of the first game. The decision to move forward with Echoes in its eventual form was a change of heart from the parent company, though the dark and light mechanics enabled the team to work smartly and use rooms twice, for example. According to some of the comments he mentioned, he said, quote, after Metroid Prime 1, we rarely crunched. We had a change of leadership between 1 and 2. We had some crunch in 2, but it wasn't the 9-month death march that we had at the end of Prime 1, though. That was the worst. I had 2 times when I was there 48 hours straight with 1 hour of sleep, and then a couple of 36 hours days for the last 9 months. We were there pretty much 24/7. At the end of the time, everyone was ready to quit, and we were like, we're done. I had 2 job offers from 2 different companies, and to their credit, Nintendo realized what was going on and took over the company, brought it out. They put Michael Kelbaugh, Kelbaugh, apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, in charge. He's a sweetheart, real good, and he was head of Nintendo's Q&A department. He said, guys, give me a few weeks to turn it around, and he did. He restored faith in leadership and the company. I loved working for Nintendo. Michael Kelbaugh is still the president and CEO of Retro Studios, and I worked at Nintendo for over 14 years at the time of his appointment. Later in the interview, Mike briefly touched on his plans to play Metroid Prime 4, the long-delayed project that was initially made elsewhere before Nintendo reversed course and gave it to Retro Studios. He has confidence that the current team will deliver. Here's what he had to say, quote, and Metroid 4 will be great. A lot of the core designers on the team are guys who were there when I was. They understand what a Metroid game is. Nintendo has been known to delay some projects to avoid overtime work, citing need to care for its employees when it's originally pushed back. Animal Crossing: New Horizon as one example. Metroid Prime 4, of course, has no meaningful release window at this time, so the project reboot is clearly given plenty of time, though. I will say, though, that assuming everything this person is saying is correctly, I think that it was a good thing that there was a serious change in leadership over at Retro Studios, though, especially with the issue of crunch. This has been sort of a big issue for the gaming industry as a whole, though. We've heard stories of people working hours and hours on end, missing important, like family moments or missing friends and families and all that, to even some people outright quitting the industry altogether because of crunch, especially after what we heard with Cyberpunk 2077 and the whole issue of crunch right there. So it's kind of refreshing to see that Nintendo was willing to basically change the issue to avoid the whole issue of crunch and all. Again, I'm not saying Nintendo is 100% perfect. They have their share of criticism, and some of those criticisms are justifiable. Let's be real. Nintendo is by all means not the Messiah. They're not the second coming of Jesus or anything like that. But it is it is great to see that even a company like Nintendo is willing to avoid crunch as much as possible and focus on, if it's necessary, to delay the game to make sure the game is done properly, though. I think that was a really good thing and all. So overall, though, it's a very interesting story about Metroid Prime in general, though, and it does still bring up the issue of crunch itself, and something that the industry as a whole needs to do a better job addressing, though. But it is very nice to hear that Nintendo definitely wants to avoid crunch and all. One last thing I do want to point out is that if you want to hear more about the history of it, there is a video from the What Happened series from a YouTuber by the name of Matt McMuscle, though. I'll have a link to the video in the description, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. It takes a look at the history of the development of Metroid Prime, and it has to do with one other person, and it also has to tie into what's considered by many to be the most controversial game. So controversial it's outright banned, and that is the infamous The Guy game that was released on the PS2 and the Xbox, though. So if you're interested, though, on that video from Matt McMuscle's the What Happened series on Metroid Prime, the links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with my thoughts on the PlayStation Showcase. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, I want to give my thoughts on the PlayStation Showcase that was shown, though. So, putting aside the fact that it's still hard to somewhat find a PS5, I'm still, like I mentioned, I'm still struggling trying to even find one, though. I'm hoping to find one soon, though, but it is what it is right now, though. Sony has been, for the most part, been kind of quiet in terms of what they are planning for the PS5, or at least in terms of what games they were showing off and all. And it was sort of interesting when they skipped this year's E3, not really wanting to show anything, compared to what Nintendo and Microsoft showed off during E3. Microsoft certainly had a good presentation, and I thought Nintendo's presentation was not bad either, though. So when they announced that they were doing the PlayStation Showcase, I decided to take a look at this one, though, and I will have to say and agree with most of what the internet's saying. I don't always agree with what the internet's saying about this one being rated sort of a B, though. I won't go as far as this event sort of blew me out and blew my socks off or anything like that, but I will say this was definitely a good PlayStation Showcase in terms of some of the games that they announced, including some interesting surprises, though. So what did they show off during this PlayStation Showcase? If I get the list up. Well, some of the games they showed off was Knights of the Old Republic remake that's being done, which is certainly nice since I never really played the original one, though. We don't know exactly if this is coming to the Xbox Series S and X, though. I don't know if this is a time exclusive or if this is something Nintendo is funding, though. So we'll have to wait and see. But nice that that one is being in development. Project Eve, that one looked kind of interesting for me. That one basically was sort of a cross between a Devil May Cry and a Bayonetta, and that certainly isn't a bad thing at all. And that's one I probably, assuming I can find a PS5, though, it's probably one I would definitely keep an eye out, though, especially if you're a fan of Bayonetta, the Nier Automata or Automata game, or the Devil May Cry series to be exact. Tiny Tina's Wonderland from Gearbox Software. I mean, again, I have my issues with Gearbox, but I do like the Borderlands series, and this one definitely does look interesting, though I suspect that will appear on other systems as well. Forspoken, that one looked kind of interesting as well, and one I would keep an eye out, especially since it's from Square Enix and Lumire's production. Rainbow Six Extraction, I haven't really touched the Rainbow Six series, so that one I'll skip, though. Alan Wake Remastered, though, they showed off some gameplay on that one. That one looked kind of neat, though that one is also coming to the Xbox Series S and X as well, and it'll be out on October 5th, so I'll definitely keep my eye out on that game to be exact, and it will be interesting to see if that opens the door to a Alan Wake 2 and all. They also showed off Grand Theft Auto 5 and GTA Online for, the next gen's versions, and judging by what they showed so far, they really didn't show much, and it didn't look like I didn't see any major improvement at all. In fact, last time I heard, when this was posted on YouTube, or at least the GTA Next Gen video was posted on YouTube, for what I've been hearing, it got downvoted a lot. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that one. Don't get me wrong, GTA 5 is a good game. I'm not arguing against that, but it does feel like Rockstar is taking the Skyrim route with GTA 5, and they're just like milking pardon my language, but milking the living shit out of it, to be exact. Ghostwire Tokyo, that one looks kind of interesting indeed, though. It is going to be interesting how this game is going to play, considering that one of the original folks who were on this project left, and the game's been pushed back to 2022, which means it's a time exclusive on the PS5, which means by 2023 the game will be available on Xbox Series S and X. So it is an interesting game nevertheless. So they showed off a cutscene for Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy. Still on the fence about that game because, I mean, after how the Avengers was handled, I'm not really sure about that one, but I'll give Eidos Montreal the benefit of the doubt, but I'm still iffy about it, though. Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, though, that one I probably will skip, though. It looks like it's more like a multiplayer-only game, but I could be wrong on that. Deathloop, we've seen so much videos about Deathloop and all that, so, I mean, it might be good and all. It's from Aulx Studio that did the excellent Dishonor and the Prey reboot, so this one might be good. I'll keep an eye on it, although they've been showing a lot about that. They showed off a video for Kid, a MESIA exhibitor from Epic Games and from the band Radiohead, but they didn't really show much, though. So I don't know much about that game, though. Another one, THIA. I think this one is more of an indie title, though. It looks kind of interesting. I'll keep an eye on that one, though. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, which is basically, I believe, the production of Uncharted 4 and the other Uncharted game. Apologize if I don't know the name for that one. That's coming to the PS5, and from what I understand, it's coming to PC, though. Marvel's Wolverine. This is the one that kind of surprised me a little bit, to hear that Insomniac Games is certainly working on a on a Marvel game based off of the character Wolverine, who's part of the X-Men series. No word in terms of where they draw inspiration or anything like that. The game's supposed to be going to not be out for a while, possibly 2023, so we may be waiting a little bit though. But given how Insomniac Games have handled some of their games, from Spider-Man to the Ratchet and Clank, I do have some hope on this one, but I still want to see some gameplay on it. Nevertheless, though, Gran Turismo 7, what they showed off looked like mostly the single-player part, and that one looks kind of interesting. I'll keep an eye on that one, again, as soon as I can find a PS5. Marvel Spider-Man 2, this one isn't really surprising, given how well the first Marvel Spider-Man did, though, and even Miles Morales. I'm not really surprised they're doing a Spider-Man 2. The interesting thing is that there looks like it's going to be both Peter Parker and Miles Morales against Venom. That's certainly going to be neat. Sadly, we're going to have to wait until 2023 until the game comes out, so that's a little bit unfortunate though. And last but not least, they ended it with God of War Ragnarok, and we saw some gameplays and a much older Kratos' son and all, and still looks very interesting though. It definitely, hopefully the gameplay still holds up though. I do have faith on that title though, but we'll have to wait and see. So I will have to say what they showed was actually, let me get this out. Let me get out of the way. The show was pretty good though. It wasn't spectacular and all, and I will say the opening was okay. I think it was unnecessary, but not bad. And some of the games, like some of it, like, we've seen so much about Deathloop, and I really think Grand Theft Auto was unnecessary. But I will say it was nice to see the trailer for Alan Wake, though. Project Eve is definitely one, since I'm a big, since I like Bayonetta, Nier Automata, and, the Devil May Cry series. Knights of the Old Republic remake is one I would take a look at, but I think the Marvel's Wolverine was probably the big surprise for me, though. I'm very curious to see how Insomniac handles that game. And though it wasn't unsurprising, though, Marvel Spider-Man 2 definitely could end up being a good game, especially with Venom, though. Although, like I said, given how the first one and Miles Morales has done, it doesn't really surprise me that a sequel was going to happen. So overall, this was a good showcase. I mean, there were some surprises like Marvel Wolverine, some announcements that you knew was probably going to happen, you just wanted to hear an official confirmation though. But there were some pretty good games that they showed in the list. Some games like Grand Theft Auto 5 I think was really unnecessary to be in the trailer, and same with Deathloop, where there's so much information about it right now, so I think some of it was unnecessary. But this wasn't a bad presentation either. I mean, this was a very good presentation that Sony showed off, though. And there are certain games to be looking forward to, even though, unfortunately, some of the games will have to wait until 2023. And I do hope we see some gameplay for some of these games, like the Wolverine game, soon. Now, if only I could be lucky enough to actually get a PS5. That's still one that I'm still trying to figure out, though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Sony reversing their upgrade or the situation surrounding Horizon Forbidden West? Do you think this was the right call for Sony to do? Do you think Sony should take the approach that Microsoft's doing in regards of the whole smart delivery approach, though? What are your thoughts about the situation surrounding Sonic Colors, particularly with the Nintendo Switch version, though? Do you think this is unacceptable, the fact that Sega and the developers Blind Squirrel released Sonic Colors in this kind of state that it was in, though? Have you experienced any bugs and glitches in any shape or form, regardless of which version you picked up, or especially if you picked up the Nintendo Switch version? What are your thoughts about this issue about Metroid Prime, the history of it, or should I say the history, and the fact that Nintendo decided to try to fix the culture there following the development of the first game, though? Do you think it was the right thing Nintendo to do? Do you think the issue of crunch is still an issue that does need to be addressed, though? Does this give you some confidence about waiting a while for, say, Metroid Prime 4? And what are your thoughts about the PlayStation Showcase? Do you think what Sony showed off was good? Do you think it was bad in any way? Were there certain surprises that you were happy to see? Were there games you were glad that they showed off? Or were there games that you really wish Sony would have showed off during this PlayStation Showcase? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button, and I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!